Hi, and welcome to Mallory in the Library. If you have joined us before, welcome back, and if this is your first time joining us, then welcome. Before we start our time together today, I just wanted to say a big congratulations to all the students and caregivers and parents and whoever else is watching on making it through the first part of this very different school year. I'm sure it's been very different for everybody, but you've done great work and you've made it, so congratulations. Now, today is a very special day. Today is the winter solstice, and that means that there is the least amount of daylight of any day during the year today in the Northern Hemisphere. And why this is special is it's a time that a lot of different cultures and people around the world use really as a quiet time, and it helps us think about the last year and get ready for what's to come. And so I hope you enjoy this foggy day outside, and we're going to share some stories. So the first one I'm going to share is called The Shortest Day by Susan Cooper, and the illustrations are by Carson Ellis. You might remember that we talked about poems if you tuned in for that one, and this is kind of like a poem book too. And it just starts out with some pictures. There's some people gathering things, and I wonder what they could be for. So the shortest day came. And the year died. And everywhere down the centuries of the snow-white world came people singing and dancing to drive the dark away. They lighted candles in winter trees, and they hung their homes with evergreens. They burned beseeching fires all night long to keep the year alive. And when the New Year's sunshine blazed awake, they shouted, reveling. Through all the frosty ages, you can hear them echoing behind us. Listen. All the long echoes sing the same delight, this shortest day, as promise wakens in the sleeping land. They carol, feast, give thanks, and dearly love their friends, and hope for peace. And so do we, here, now, this year, and every year. Welcome, Yule. And so you can always remember that too. When it's really dark out, you can always sing and dance, and that will bring some light into our lives in these cold winter months. Our next story is called Mouse Celebrates the Winter Solstice, and it's written by Terry Mack and illustrated by Bill Helen. And it says, dedicated to my loving dad, with love, Terry. So there's just an introductory part that says, what is the winter solstice? In the north, The winter solstice usually falls on December 21st, which is today, or 22nd of each year. It is the shortest day and the longest night of the year. For many Indigenous peoples, the winter solstice was and still is a time of celebration. It marks the coming of the long days of winter. It is a time to use up all the stored food that will not last through the winter months. It is a time to share, to feast, and to celebrate with family and friends. And I think that many people and cultures from all over the world also use winter as a time for feasting and enjoying the company of friends and family. And this year that might look different, but it doesn't mean that we care for each other any less. The cold day was short, the night would be long. Our winter has come. It is time for song. My kitty cat has something to say too. I guess he can come join us for this story. Okay, are you gonna help me out? The coldness did creep, it swirled through the dark. The land was so still, so quiet and stark. Those tiny footprints could barely be seen. Look close and you'll know that someone has been. Wrapped in the quiet, and there in the bleak, there stood a wise mouse preparing to speak. The words that she chose from many years past, from elder to child, the circle did last. Mouse stood proud and tall, her face all aglow, clearly determined, words ready to flow. Our elders, we are one nation, together so strong. We all share our love, we all sing one song. Our elders' stories, they told of great light, strength that was gathered from that which was right. I think our little mouse friend is just in the corner here. The time is now here to stand tall and rise, so proud to share gifts and to be strong and wise. So gather around, come close, feel the light. Let us celebrate the winter solstice night. That one little voice so far could be heard, across many lands, the words, how they stirred. Maybe, I hope you can see on your screen these really lovely illustrations of the constellations. Then out of the night, through brush and the trees, they came for a song, and they came with such ease. Some forest friends. The snow flurries came, and the land sparkled white. Those families danced in the bright moonlight. And so that is Mouse Celebrates the Winter Solstice. Now the next one we're going to read is a longer story. It is about caribou hunting in Canada's far north. And it's called Our First Caribou Hunt by Jennifer Noah and Chris Giraud, and it's illustrated by Hui Lim. And let's see. So the dedications say, in loving memory of my son, Robert Giraud, and to Chris, I'm honored to be able to write this book with you. So that was very nice. Our first caribou hunt. And there are some words in a different language, and that language is called Inuktitut, and I do not speak it very well. I'm going to try to pronounce the words as best as I can. If you do speak Inuktitut and could offer some corrections, that would be greatly appreciated. Feel free to comment on Facebook or Twitter. New Tarek, it's time to go, Simone cried to his older sister as he ran through their living room. Atata is starting to load up for the trip. Simone peeked through the window and could see Atata arranging their supplies next to his snowmobile. Ati, let's go, we need to help Atata, cried Simone as he ran towards the front door. Simone, Nutarak, and their father had made a list of everything they would need for a 2-day hunting trip, with a little bit extra for good measure. Outside, next to the pile of gear that their father was gathering, Nutarak read the items on the list while Simone looked over the gear. Stove, lantern, and skins, Nutarak read. Check, replied Simone. The two of them had enjoyed preparing for this hunting trip with their father. Simone and Nutarak knew that their Atata was a skilled hunter, and they wanted to be just like him. They could hardly wait to bring home a tuktu, or caribou, or even tuktui, many caribou, to share with their family and community, the way their Atata always did. Do you think I will catch a tuktu like Atata? Simone asked his sister. Yes, I think we both will. Atata has taught us everything we need to know about hunting tuktuit and catching ikaliwit, Arctic char. I can't wait to make him proud by catching my first tuktu. Me too, Simone whispered to himself. He was feeling excited about the trip. It's still dark even when they are preparing to go. Once all the items on their checklist were accounted for, the kids and the Tata began loading the kanmutik, the sled that they would pull behind their snowmobile. We put breakable things at the back of the sled, right, Atata? Asked Simone. Yes, it's less bumpy at the back, replied Atata. It will still be dark for the next few hours, but I know the route to the spring hunting grounds very well. You two can take turns riding with me on the snowmobile and sitting on the kwamutik. Make sure you have all of your layers of warm clothing on. Yes, Atata, we are all ready, the kids replied. The trio reached their destination after 2 hours of travel across the tundra. The sun still hadn't shown any sign of light in the Arctic darkness. We will leave the light from the snowmobile on and use the lantern to look for a nice, flat spot to set up our tent. Such a spot is called a tupikvik, said Atata. We'll need the tent to give us shelter while we work on setting up our camp and building our igloo. Simone spotted a large flat area of tundra not far from the kwamutik. Here's a tupikvik, Simone cried, running over to the spot. Good job. That's where we will set up camp, Atata replied. Tata lit the stove to provide some heat while they unpacked. How did our great-grandparents set up Camp Atata? Did they have tents too? Were they made of canvas like ours? Asked Simone. Life was hard on the land in our ancestors' days, but Inuit were so strong and inventive that they adapted to their environment and survived by using the skins and bones of the animals they hunted to make tents. In the winter, they made snow houses, igloo, like the one we are going to make today, Atata explained. Atata, do you think we are going to see lots of tuktu? Asked Simone as he helped Nutarak secure a large rock to one side of the tent. Well, replied Atata, I often catch tuktui here, but we will need to be still and quiet once we get the rest of camp set up. It is important for us to have our shelter completely ready before we go looking for game, in case bad weather comes our way. As the sun finally peeked out over the horizon, the camp was at last bright enough to see without using the snowmobile lamp for light. We should be able to find the right snow to build an igloo with this little bit of sunlight and our lantern, explained Atata. The snow can't be too hard or we won't be able to cut blocks. It can't be too soft either or the blocks will just fall apart. We have to find the right kind of snow. How about this snow, Atata? Will it work for cutting blocks? Asked Nutarak as she stomped her boot on a firm patch of snow. Atata examined the snow and cut a line through it with a snow knife. This snow is perfect. Great job, Atata cheered. We should all get started cutting blocks for the igloo. I brought 2 more knives, one for each of you. Cutting the blocks yourself will help you learn how to build a shelter if you ever get stuck on the land. The children watched their Atata as he carved snow blocks from the ground, shaping and smoothing them out once he had stacked them. The children and their father built the igloo in the sliver of Arctic sunlight reaching over the horizon. All the while, Atata was quietly singing under his breath. Atata, why are you singing about Tuktui? Simone asked. Ah, great question. This song is meant to invite the caribou to give themselves to us, so that we can share their meat with all of our loved ones. When I sing to them, somehow they know that we Inuit are in need of their meat, Atata said. It seems like very hard work to build an igloo. As Mutarak stood inside the igloo, cutting the vent at the top through which the smoke from their stove would escape, Atata spotted a small herd of caribou from outside the igloo. Silently, he signaled to Simone to grab their rifles. Simone followed his Atata and copied every move he made. Crawling on his hands and knees, holding his rifle in one hand while making sure not to touch the ground, to let it touch the ground, which might get snow or dirt in the barrel, Atata showed Simone how to approach the caribou without being noticed. Atata glanced over to Simone and gave him a nod. It was time to shoot at the caribou. A loud shot rang out, and the kickback from the rifle startled Simone. Atata's rifle rang out twice, following Simone's shots. Within moments, 3 caribou fell to the ground, and the rest of the herd scurried away. Simone beamed a wide smile. He had just caught his first caribou. From inside the igloo, Mutarak heard gunshots. She dropped her snow knife and scurried outside. Her heart sank as she saw that her Atata and her brother had just caught 3 caribou without her. Mutarak's face revealed her mixed feelings. She was excited about the catch, but disappointed she hadn't been a part of it. It's all right, Mutarak, Atata soothed. We will need your help to harvest the tuktui. It's only the beginning of the trip, and you will catch your tuktu. As the hunters approached the 3 caribou, Atata explained, "It is very important for Inuit hunters to give thanks to the animals they have caught. We must show our gratitude and joy to the animal that gave its life so we could have food. It is bad luck not to give thanks, and Inuit can have a hard time finding game if we don't pay our catch the proper respect." After the children and their father had harvested the 3 caribou and delighted in a yummy meal of fresh meat, they settled in for a restful night's sleep. The next morning, the sun shone enough to reveal clear blue skies. "Atata, what are we doing today?" Mutarak asked eagerly. "Are we going tuktu hunting?" Mutarak wanted to catch her own caribou very badly. "If we come across more tuktui, we can catch one. But today we are jigging for Iqaluit." And you might remember that if you were with us earlier, we read a story about that jigging is a type of fishing, of ice fishing. "Oh," Mutarak whispered, disappointed. "Your tuktu will come to you, my daughter. Be patient. An impatient hunter never catches anything, and everyone depending on him or her goes hungry. Let's catch some fish, and perhaps we will spot some caribou, too." Oh my goodness. Come here. That was not a caribou. That was a Iqaluit, Kajit, Char, come here, Simone sang as the family walked towards their fishing spot. "I know how to jig for fish, Atata. We've done this a million times," Simone said excitedly as he stuck his fishing line in the ice hole. "The person who catches the first fish today gets to drive the snowmobile home," Atata exclaimed. "On your mark, get set, go!" And within minutes, Simone had caught the first fish. It was a big, healthy Arctic char. "Yes, I get to drive home," Simone cheered. Mutarak couldn't help but feel a twinge of disappointment, but she continued to jig with her brother and father and caught many fish to bring back home. "Tonight we will feast on char steaks, the head and all," Atata announced. This brightened Mutarak's mood, and the 3 of them enjoyed another delicious meal from their catch. After supper, Mutarak sat thinking about what her father had told her, that her caribou would come to her. She thought about her Atata's songs and how he had told her to always give thanks to the animals they caught. What if my tuk-tuk never comes to me, Atata? Am I following the ways a good hunter should hunt? How do I know what to do? Nutark asked, finally letting her frustrations show. Well, different communities have different hunting taboos, which are kind of like rules. Lynx, come here. But giving thanks to the animal and feeling joy is very important to all Inuit in order to avoid bad luck. Okay, bad luck while hunting. Once you have caught your tuk-tuk, sharing your catch with loved ones is also very important to all Inuit hunters. The best parts of each catch should go to your mother, grandmother, best friends, and to families who are not able to hunt, Atata explained. What's very important to remember, Nutark, is that Inuit always show respect to the animals and to the land that they hunt from. You do this by making sure you don't let an animal suffer or linger in pain. As well, Inuit use all the parts of the animals we catch, except for some small parts which we leave for scavengers like foxes. An Inuit would never think of taking an animal's life and leaving it for waste. It is disrespectful to the circle of life and brings bad luck to many. Is showing respect the most important thing a good hunter can do? Simone asked. And being thankful for the animals that have given their lives to us so that we can eat, like the delicious ikaluk we just joined, Nutark said. Yes, you two are learning quickly, Atata beamed. As Nutark nestled down in her sleeping bag that night, she decided that she would be thankful and joyful for all the animals that they had caught on their trip, even if she did not catch a caribou of her own this time. The next morning, the three hunters began taking down their camp and packing the kamutik. It had been a fun camping trip filled with delicious country food, lots of laughs, and beautiful weather. Don't forget, Atata, I get to drive home, Simone reminded his father. I know, son, you won, fair and square. As Nutark rode on the kamutik and watched the Tupivik fade into the distance, she couldn't help but feel a little bit sad. On the way home, Nutark quietly sang about caribou as she watched the horizon, still hoping she would be able to catch her first one to share with her loved ones. About halfway home, Atata and the children spotted 2 caribou in the distance. Atata stopped the snowmobile and winked at Nutark. There's your tuk-tuk, he said. Nutark drew her rifle just as her father had shown her many times before and pointed in the direction of the 2 caribou. One shot rang out, and then 2. Both caribou fell to the ground. Nutark had caught 2 caribou. Amazing! You caught them both, and from such a distance, beamed Atata. Wait until your grandmother and grandfather hear about this. Nutark's heart burst with joy at knowing that she had made her father proud. Simone smiled widely at his sister. Nutark, you're as good as a hunter as Atata, Simone said. As they got closer to the 2 caribou, they realized that they were the fattest, healthiest caribou they had ever seen. Nutark, you should drive the rest of the way home. These tuk-tuks sure beat my first ikaluk, Simone said. No, Simone, Nutark replied. We all contribute in different ways. Your catch is just as important as mine. I'm happy to sit on the kamutik. When we get home, let's both tell grandmother and grandfather about the animals we caught so that we could feed them good, nourishing country food. As the children and their father rode back into town, full of joy and thankfulness for a successful hunting trip, the Arctic sun sat behind the mountains, and in the distance a herd of caribou traveled silently on across the horizon. So I really like that story because it talks about being respectful to what we have learned and done. And you may have heard some sounds from a kind of mysterious animal who I'm sure will make an appearance, and that was just a kitty cat. We have a couple of minutes left, so what I might do is just share a little part of this very beautiful story about a snow day. And this is by Warner Zimmerman. I will mostly just go through the pictures. It says, dedicated to my sons, Christopher and Tristan, to the memory of their mother, and to the fine old house on Glasgow Street that welcomed and sheltered us all. Something woke us up early in the morning. Maybe it was the silence. Millions of snowflakes drifted down. Everything was covered in a deep blanket of snow. Would it be deep enough? Would school be closed? We waited and waited. I was just about to drag myself out the door when we heard the magic words. Snow day! If you have had a snow day before, you will know it's very exciting. My friends were already outside. We threw ourselves into the snow, making angels and catching the flakes with our tongues. Mups did too. I think Mups is right up here, their doggy. People were digging out their cars. The big kids were going to clear walks for the old people, so we grabbed our shovels and followed. But our way was blocked by a huge train pushing through the snow. It wouldn't give up, and neither would our neighbor. We waved as the snowplow rumbled up the road. The grown-ups didn't. Mups just barked. After lunch, we headed to the park for hockey and tag. The old maple was home free. Mups didn't know who was it, so he chased everyone. He even chased the puck. Our fingers and toes were frozen, and our pants were soaked from falling down, but nobody cared. On the way home, we passed fantastic snow blocks. We just couldn't leave them behind because they'd be great for a snow fort. It had a roof and a flag and a tunnel for a door. It was the greatest snow fort ever. Mups helped, and so did Mouse, our cat. Looks like he's up here. Our faces were stinging by the time Mom called us in. She gave us hot chocolate, and we told her about our fort. When our clothes were dry, we headed back out to build a monster slide. Mouse watched from the fence, where it was safe. By supper time, we could hardly keep our eyes open, and outside, more snow was beginning to fall. Just before bed, we had one last look. Millions and millions of flakes were falling. We fell asleep hoping for only one thing: another snow day. So I hope that we get some snow and that you can all do your favorite snowy activities. Maybe it's a snow fort, maybe it's skiing, maybe it's just watching the snow inside with a warm drink and a nice snack. So thank you so much for joining us for our Winter Solstice Snow celebration today. I hope you have a great solstice, and next week, which will be December 28th, we will be sharing stories about this magical thing in the north called the Northern Lights. So I hope that you're able to join us then, and until then, stay safe, stay warm, and make sure that you tell someone that you love them today. Have a great day.